Hello, and welcome back to the Stop Medical Kidnapping podcast. I'm Barbara. I'm the founder of the Stop Medical Kidnapping group, and I'm your host today. I'm not too keen to record this today, if I'm honest, because it is something still very traumatic to talk about. But that's why we are here. That's why we have this podcast. We want to spread the information about medical kidnapping in Ontario and elsewhere. And sharing stories of medical kidnapping is one way how we can make the public aware of what's going on and hopefully make some changes happen. So, I will share my story today of how my children ended up medically kidnapped by the system. And I will include details that I think are important. This story is one of many that you will hear on this podcast. And hopefully you will see that they are very similar because the system does not work well and keeps doing the same mistakes or errors rather that need to be corrected. We'll talk about it as we go further on in this podcast. So here it comes, my story about the medical kidnapping of my children. So our story began in 2017 on December 1st. At that time, I had 3 children, a 4-year-old and twins that were little babies. They were 8 weeks old. They were preemies when they were born, but they grew well. They passed all their well baby checkups. And this is an important piece of information. You'll hear that in many of the medical kidnapping stories, the babies generally did well. And what is important, the parents were not negligent towards their health in any way. They took them to their regular well baby checkups, and the babies were passing those checkups. So there was the same case for our children, our twins. And on this particular day, when this all started to unfold, one of the baby twins, the son, I will talk about him and call him the son because I don't want to post this name here. He was doing well. He was feeding well. It was just a normal day. In the evening, I nursed him as I did, and I decided to go see, or not go see, go to the post office to send some packages. And as I was leaving the house, everything seemed to be perfectly okay. It was a perfectly calm scene. The 2 other kids were already sleeping, and my husband was holding our son and rocking him to sleep in the rocking chair, and it was just a perfectly calm, normal evening. And as I was driving to the post office, I got a phone call from my husband. I pulled over and I took the call, and he told me in a frantic voice that our son stopped breathing, for me to call 911 and rush home. So that's what I did. I called 911 from the car. I drove I drove back home as fast as I could, and I saw him kind of a grayish blue color, lying on the floor as my husband was trying to resuscitate him. It was a complete shock. As I said, like, was a completely normal day, and he was last seen 10 days before this happened for his well baby checkup, and everything was perfectly fine. So yeah, we were resuscitating before the ambulance came, and he was transported to the local ER, which for us is Grand River Hospital in Kitchener. And so when we were there, I was in a sense relieved, because I thought we have the worst behind us, that he survived. He was having a breathing tube in the ER, but he was alive. I was just relieved that we were there when he collapsed, and we were able to save him, because if this happened an hour later, when he was he would have been alone in his crib, right, sleeping, this would not end up well. So yeah, as much as I was shocked at what happened and didn't understand what was going on, I was also relieved that we were able to save him, which this relief did not last for long. So they were doing some tests on him. He had blood work done. He had a chest X-ray done. He had the tube in, and nobody was talking to us really a lot. We were just kind of in the room, hanging out there, and just trying to be with him, and just recover from the shock of it all. And my friends came over to support me, and my husband was home with the other two kids. And nobody told me anything about what was going on with him, with my son. But he seemed to be doing well. He seemed to be, just considering everything, doing well. Suddenly, I got a phone call from a person that I didn't know at all. And she said over the phone that they were apprehending our children. I I I was in a complete shock. I didn't. I'm not a native speaker, obviously, and so I didn't even know the word like apprehend. I didn't know what she was talking about for the first couple minutes when she was talking, and then I understood from context like what she's meaning, and I just I was just like completely flabbergasted. I just like my son, stopped breathing, and that's why my children will be taken from my care. Like I had no idea like what was going on. Anyway, so later I learned that what happened while I was in the hospital with my son is that the police came to our house after the 911 call, and also the local CAS worker. Her name was, or is still, Patricia Morco, and she just came and told my husband to pick up our two children, that they are being apprehended. She didn't have any court warrant. It was just a decision based on like immediate danger to the children, was her explanation, even though our son, except for the respiratory arrest, did not have any signs of any abuse whatsoever. He was perfectly fine. Not a scratch, not a bruise. the other two children were perfectly fine as well. So, um, as newcomers here, I personally did not have any experience with CAS ever. I did not even know they existed, except for one case that I have heard about from a friend of mine. Um, but I was just completely shocked. I didn't understand what was going on and why. Um, so after this all happened, and let me tell you that when you are in the situation like this, when you are not even sure if your son will survive and what his condition will be like, you don't have the capacity to think clearly about anything really. So as this was unfolding, I was kind of in a haze and just going on with it. And of course I told everybody, and that we like there was no reason to take our kids away from us, or but we were kind of under the impression that this is for like a day or two until we see like what's going on, and we had no idea that this nightmare will take over 3 years. So anyway, we were told in the hospital that the x-ray that my son had done, the chest x-ray, showed that he had not only pneumonia, which we didn't present in any way. He didn't have any cough or fever or anything like that. But he also had a number of healing rib fractures and a healing collarbone fracture. And again, he passed his well baby checkup 10 days before that, and nobody raised any concerns whatsoever. And the number of the what we were told, the healing fractures, and was that just a complete shock. Like he didn't have any signs of having fractures like bruises or swelling or anything like that. And he didn't have any falls or any like reason to have fractures in his body at all. So we just didn't understand what was going on, and like just yeah. He also had a CT scan done, and we were told that everything was okay. So that was a huge relief, as he was transported from Grand River Hospital to McMaster Hospital. I thought that the reason for the transfer was, because that's a pediatric hospital and he will have a more specialized care there. But I think that part of the reason was that McMaster has a child abuse team, and my son was being at that point considered a victim of child abuse. Again, even though he had zero signs of abuse on his body, passed all well baby checkups, and just the only thing that really we didn't have any explanation for a number of healing fractures in his body that we didn't even know that he had. So I will go on with the story. As we arrived to McMaster, things went from like bad to worse. My son started having seizures that we were told were very difficult to control. So they were trying to figure out like dosage of all kinds of medications to have that under control. But other than that, other than somebody telling us about the seizures, there was no discussion as to like what might be the reason for what's going on with him. We were from the beginning treated as we were criminals who actually did hurt our child to this point. And if looks could kill, like the looks of some of the doctors and nurses, I will just never forget. And I might possibly look at somebody who actually did hurt their child like this way too. So, but we did not. So um anyway, so like the day after he had the respiratory arrest, he was seen, and the other two kids as well were seen by uh, Dr. Kathleen Nolan, who is one of the child abuse pediatricians at McMaster. And again, the whole interaction with her was not an interaction with a doctor. It was like an interaction with a prosecutor who's just trying to figure out not if anybody did anything, but who did this and how. So again, we were told that he was hurt, that somebody must have done it to him, that it must have been several occasions of like brutal violence, because the fractures were at different stages of healing, and that the reason that he collapsed must have been that somebody shook him, because when he arrived to McMaster Hospital, he had a MRI scan done, and it showed bleeding in his brain, swelling in his brain, and also bleeding behind one of his eyes. Only one of them, because that's an important information, as you will see later. Again, this was a complete shock, given that we were told just an hour ago at the Grand River Hospital that the CT is this clear and there's no issues with the head or with the brain, actually. So our two other kids were seen as well, and our older son, 4-year-old, was perfectly okay, and our other twin, we were told that she also has a number of healing rib fractures in various stages of healing. So, this just didn't make any sense at all. Like, so the story suddenly was that somehow both of the twins were somehow violently, abused to the point that somebody broke their bones, which, we knew was not correct. It was only me and my husband who were the caretakers, and neither of us, of course, did anything to them. So, there was no really. It didn't feel that they were really trying to get to the core of what happened. It was really just pointed at like who did this to them and how. Right? Again, the prosecution rather than really a medical help in any way. So mid-January 2018, my husband got charged, and he was released on bail. I rather started digging for what actually happened, because we knew that he was not abused in any way, and there must be an explanation for his medical issues. And so my husband had to move out of our house, and he was ordered to have no visits, even supervised, and no contact with either of his children. So he had zero contact with his babies and with his then 4-year-old son. Again, we did not know for how long this will be going on, and it turned out to be 3 years. So thanks to the Crowns, Sydney McLean, and I forgot the first one's name, thankfully, they prevented my children from having contact with their father for 3 years. So much for innocent until proven guilty, right? Anyway, so while while my husband was going to work, supporting us as a family financially, I was the main caretaker. We were still under the custody of CA, or my children rather were under the custody of CAS. And I just started searching for answers because I was finally, as my son was getting better medically, I, had a clearer mind and could actually think straight to see what was going on, start digging. Um, so I learned that there are multiple uh, medical conditions that mimic child abuse, that sick children get misdiagnosed with. And um, I knew that I had to get my son's medical records and send them to experts and have him properly diagnosed. So, as I was trying to get medical records from McMaster Hospital and CAS, they refused to give them to me. This is one of the common tactics in these medical kidnapping situations. They just refuse to give you your children's medical records. And then you are really stuck because without them, there's no way they can get properly diagnosed because you just don't have access to their, imaging, blood work, actual like records from when the episode started. You don't also have access to the records like pre-birth, birth, and then in between birth and when the episode started. So your lawyer needs to get those through emotion as soon as possible, as soon as this starts for you, because without that you just cannot move on. I wish I knew that. I didn't know that. So I got the records as late as 6 months after my son was taken, uh, when the judge ordered CAS to give them back to my custody, while my husband was out of the house and criminally charged. So as I had them back, I immediately requested medical records again, and I got them, and I started digging. And I was able to also connect with um, one mom whose child also got misdiagnosed by McMaster Hospital. She also had suffered a fracture through normal handling, and also was labeled a victim of child abuse. Um, they were lucky enough to not have been. She was not apprehended from their care, but they were under 24/7 supervision. And she was then diagnosed with osteogenesis imperfecta, so brittle bone disease. So I knew that these cases happen, and I learned from her like what needs to be done to get the child properly diagnosed. I also learned that doctors in Ontario just will not go against each other, um, especially when the official diagnosis was suspected child, or not just suspected child abuse, by Kathleen Nolan. Um, and but there are doctors outside of Canada that can be contacted and that can review the child's medical records and see what actually happened, because there was evidence of the actual sickness from the very beginning. It is clear from the records. The child abuse pediatrician just simply refused to see it and go on with their prefabricated story, is what happens in these cases. So so my son was actually diagnosed with having a metabolic bone disease of infancy, vitamin D deficiency, rickets. And his twin sister, as you recall, I said like she had also um, multiple healing rib fractures, and she also had the same metabolic bone disease disorder. It makes sense. They were twins, of course, growing together, and This disease is very common in especially preemie babies and twins, because they have kind of less space to move in while they're still in the womb, and so their bones have less chance to get properly developed. Um, as for the brain bleed, my son actually had a pneumonia that just was missed. He didn't have any fever or cough or anything else, but the chest X-ray showed that he had pneumonia, which turned into sepsis, and that turned into a condition called DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation, which is just a disorder where your body starts to create clots, and this caused him to have strokes. One of the strokes actually happened while he was hospitalized, which again is clear from the imaging. And so that was the reason for his brain bleed and the swelling. It was also the reason for the bleed behind his eye, because as because of the pressure in the brain. That's how that happened. So strokes are actually, again, one of the conditions that often get misdiagnosed as abusive head trauma, or SBS, right? Shaken baby syndrome, obviously. So, as I said, 6 months in, the judge finally sent my children back home with me. Uh, and we found ourselves in this situation where I was taking care uh, of them, and my husband was out of the house, and we were we were looking for answers, medically, what happened to our son. When we finally get those answers, it was still a long way to go. Because of some COVID delays and everything that happened after. We did not get to trial until March of or February March 2021. So this whole time between January 2018 and February March 2021, my husband was not allowed any contact between himself and his children, which was completely brutal, especially for our 4-year-old son who was just growing up without his father, and just there was no actual reason for that other than that that decision was just completely idiotic. Anyway, so as we got to the trial, I will talk about that in when we talk about like the legal part of these cases. But my husband was exonerated and came back home the same day. We have been trying to heal from this trauma for the past 2 and something years, and our case was the reason why I started Stop Medical Kidnapping group, because I learned that there are many more families in this situation, many more families who have to suffer through this, and that it is a systemic issue that just keeps repeating, because there are no statistics as to how many kids get misdiagnosed this way. The hospitals don't keep any statistics how many kids they diagnose with child abuse, and uh, the kids that are later properly diagnosed with an actual medical condition. The college is turning a blind eye on this as well. I filed complaints against the accusing doctor and they just dismissed it. So parents who go through this, I completely understand that you just want to move on and just never hear about this again. But it is crucial that you actually speak up, complain to the college about the accusing doctors, and you complain to the hospitals regarding the treatment of your children and the misdiagnosis that happened to you. That will be it for today. In the next episodes, we'll talk about the entities that are crucial in these medical kidnappings. So we'll talk about the role of CAS, the role of child abuse pediatricians, and the role of the police and or crown attorneys in this. Thank you for listening.